me the opportunity to speak during this year's Young Lawyers Division Conference. I would like to begin with the difference between legal and equitable remedies. Equitable remedies, also known as equitable relief, are remedies resulting from a claim of estoppel. For those who may not know, estoppel is an equitable doctrine, a bar that prevents an individual from asserting a claim that contradicts what one has said before or a statement that has been legally established as true. Legal remedies are a form of court enforcement of a legal right resulting from a successful civil lawsuit. Remedies can come in different forms, but the most common form is damages, which is a monetary compensation for a plaintiff. Legal and equitable remedies are very different and can be distinguished by what the plaintiff is seeking. In equitable remedies, the plaintiff is seeking that the court compels the defendant to perform a certain act or refrain from a certain act, whereas in legal remedies, the plaintiff is mainly seeking monetary compensation or some sort of compensation for the breach of contract. Equitable remedies have a rich history. The first recollection of equitable remedies is from the 12th century, when equitable remedies were found by the politics of England. Equitable remedies are established in the United States in the 17th century, when judges had to decide between two parties. During this, the judges would have to decide between what was fair and just for both parties. England and the United States found equitable remedies to be successful and continue to be used today in modern common law. There are three different types of equitable remedies: injunction, restitution, and specific performance. Restitution is when one party, the plaintiff, is restored to the position they were in before they were wronged. Injunction is when the court orders the defendant to cease a specific action they're doing. Lastly, specific performance is when the court orders the defendant to perform the actions they promised as closely as possible because the court deems monetary damages are somehow inadequate to fix them. Some cases in which Arizona courts applied equitable remedies are Andrew versus Blake in 2003 and Murdoch-Bryan Construction Incorporated versus Pearson in 1985. In Andrew versus Blake, Andrew owned 2.33 acres parcel of land in Phoenix, which he leased to Blake. In 1995, they signed a one-year contract which would end in 1996. With the success of that contract, in 1996 they joined a 3-year lease. Andrew offered the option to Blake to purchase the land for $300,000 after the lease was over in 1999, and Blake accepted the offer. Agreeing to pay the total, both parties were under the mistaken impression that the option along with the lease would expire at the end of January, and Blake had paid Andrew $10,000 for the extension. The addendum deleted provisions in the underlying 3-year lease relating to the notice and Blake's options to purchase, replacing them with new provisions on those topics. The addendum's new notice provision stated that all notices required or permitted under these leases shall be deemed given if with writing and delivered, personally delivered by commercial delivery service or delivered by the counter or mail. Blake's affidavit. Blake stated that Andrews told him over the phone on September 17, 1999 that he was unconditionally exercising his option. Andrew, however, testified that in his disposition that Blake called him on or about September 17th and said that, and I quote, to talk about the property but not to specifically talk about wanting to purchase the property. Blake and Andrew were meant to have a written agreement about the purchase, and if the tier of the fact found Blake mailed letter to Andrews and received before September 20th and before the deadline of October 1st, then Blake would win the court case. However, Blake did not send the written agreement through the mail before October 1st deadline, and Blake's failure to timely exercise the option was overdue solely because of his own lack of diligence. In the case, the equitable remedy used was injunction, since Andrew was not required to perform the purchase. In Murdoch-Bryan Construction Incorporated versus Pearson, Murdoch was a subcontractor that brought an action seeking recovery for fraud, breach of contract, and restitution against the prime contractor Taylor Pearson. Pearson had entered an agreement with a landowner to construct a shopping center that required blasting of a large quantity of rocks. Pearson approached Murdoch, asking to bid on a subcontract for the site of work, but Murdoch decided not to bid because he did not have time to give an estimate of the quantity of rock he had to blast. An employee of Pearson provided Murdoch with the figures regarding the quantity of rock, stating that they would need to blast 34,000 cubic yards of rock, but once accepting and viewing the work, Murdoch blasted over 52,000 cubic rocks. The misrepresentation with regard to the quantity of rocks to be blasted were made prior to July 27, 1975. In August, Murdoch performed his job. Pearson agreed to pay the extra blasting and assured Murdoch that he would pay. But once Murdoch left the job site, Pearson refused to pay. Murdoch filed for fraud, breach of contract, and restitution and won this case, awarding him with $273,000 worth of damages.